Let's see the next topic in general science, that is respiratory system. This topic is important in the biology, okay? And in today's session, we are going to see few of the previous year questions related to this chapter. But before proceeding, let's see what are the different type of questions which are asked in this chapter. The first one is the breathing. You should know the difference between inhalation and exhalation, along with the effects on the rib cage, diaphragm and lung movement. Okay. The next one is gases exchange and their percentage. These are the theoretical one. Okay. The next very important one are the primary respiratory organ of different animals. Okay. Sometime he can ask you the factual related question. Then the breathing rate, you should know breathing rate and respiratory pigment which is found in the human body. And the very important one from this chapter is the organs in the respiratory system, and most important one is the alveoli. Okay, so you should know the correct function, correct reason why this is present in the respiratory system. Okay, you should know the role of the alveoli. Okay, and again the second most important topic is cellular respiration, more specifically the difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. In this you should know the number of molecule and the ATP produced, and also the byproduct and the final product of the respiration like pyruvate, lactic acid, etc. And sometime he can ask you also the disorders related to respiratory system. Okay, all such things we have seen in theory classes. So today we are taking few previous year questions. Okay, so the first question, the amount of which of the following component in air does not exchange in the process of respiration? Carbon dioxide, oxygen, water vapor, nitrogen. Okay, so as you know, our air consists of many gases. The first one is the nitrogen, the second one is the oxygen, and third one is I'm making it as CO2, and the other gases along with water vapors. Okay, so what he is asking, that which of the following component does not change, the percentage does not change. Okay, so we know that the composition of the various component in air is like this: nitrogen, it is 78%, oxygen, it is 21%, carbon dioxide, it is 0.003%, and the remaining are other gases and the water vapors. Okay, so as you know, as a human body we take oxygen inside our body. Okay, so oxygen we take inside, it becomes 21. Okay, so basically it is found in nature is 17%, but if we inhale this oxygen, it increases 4% and it becomes 21%. Okay, we are basically consuming 4% of the oxygen. Okay, and what about carbon dioxide? So carbon dioxide basically human being release into the atmosphere, so its percentage basically increased by 4%, so it become 4%. Okay, so the nitrogen we are not able to take it. Okay, so as it is we are exhaling nitrogen. Okay, so option D is the right answer. So such pointers we have seen in our theory class where we discuss about breathing, and breathing, as you know, it is the first step of respiration, and this is very important that human being take oxygen and release CO2. Okay, and in the inhalation process we take 21% of oxygen and consume it and return oxygen level of 17%. Okay, so there is basically 4% drop, and carbon dioxide which is present in the atmosphere is 0.03%, which is basically increased to 4%. So whatever the percentage we have inhaled, 4% of carbon dioxide is increased. Okay, in this process you have different changes like rib cage, diaphragm and lung expands, rib cage move up and diaphragm moves down. Okay, all such pointers we have seen in theory class. I am not going to repeat once again, right? Let's see the next question. During heavy exercise, the breathing rate in an average adult person can increase up to dash per minute. Okay, so normally you know that human breathing rate is around 15 to 18 per minute breathing rate, but when we do exercise it can increase up to 25. Okay, so those who have given option C, they are right. 25 is the maximum breathing rate during heavy exercise. Okay, let's see the next question. It is from the respiratory organ basically, so you have to match the organ with the animal. Okay, so first one is diaphragm. Okay, so where it is present? It is present in the chest cavity. Okay, fish, as you know, fish respire through gills. Okay, so 4 it is match. Frog, as you know, this is amphibian, so it will take respiration through lungs and skin as well. Okay, so it matches with 1. And last one is a cockroach. As you know, it consists of trachea system and spiracles are the endpoints. Okay, so 4 it is matching. So 1 become 2 and 2 become 4. 1 become 2, 2 become 4. So option A is the right answer. Let's see the next question. A very simple one. Human being respiratory pigment are chlorophyll, melanin, rhodopsin and hemoglobin. As you know, chlorophyll is present in the plants. Okay, so this is not found in human body, so you can eliminate. Melanin, as you know, it is basically related to the skin component. Again, this is eliminated. Rhodopsin is another component which is nowhere related to respiration, so this is eliminated. The next one, hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is basically the respiratory pigment, okay, which carries oxygen and carbon dioxide for the transportation of gases, right? So option D is the right answer. Hemoglobin is the respiratory pigment. Let's see the next question. All of the statement given below regarding inhalation and in human being are correct except one, which is not correct. Ribs move inward during inhalation. So he is asking about inhalation. So if you inhale, ribs move upward and diaphragm is raised. So this is incorrect. Okay, so those who have given option A, they are right. This is incorrect. Ribs actually goes in upward, okay, not inward, and diaphragm is become downwards. Okay, so this is incorrect, whereas B is correct. Ribs are lift up and diaphragm become flat. Okay, so this option A is incorrect. The complete conversion of glucose in presence of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water with the release of energy is called what? So basically he is asking about two types of respiration that we have studied, aerobic and anaerobic. And it is the aerobic respiration which occurs in the presence of oxygen, where glucose is converted into carbon dioxide, water with release of energy in the form of ATP. Okay, so it is basically aerobic respiration. What about anaerobic? It is in the absence of oxygen. Glycolysis is the first step in this aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and hydrolysis is nowhere related to this respiration process. So we have seen the difference between the cellular and acellular. Basically aerobic means complete breakdown of glucose in which the end product are carbon dioxide, water and the energy, whereas anaerobic is basically occur in absence of oxygen, and it can be partial breakdown of glucose The end product can be ethanol, lactic acid, and it produces the less energy. Which of the following statement is or are true in reference to breakdown of glucose? In cytoplasm, glucose break down into pyruvate, which has 4 carbon molecule. This itself is wrong. In cytoplasm, glucose break down into pyruvate, that is correct, but it is not 4, it is 3 carbon molecule. Okay, so this is incorrect. He is asking about which of the one is true. Okay, due to lack of oxygen, pyruvate get converted into lactic acid. Yes, when there is lack of oxygen, it convert into lactic acid, and in the complete absence of oxygen, this pyruvate get converted into carbon dioxide and ethanol, that is nothing but your fermentation. Okay, so this is also true. Okay, so in this, option C, 2 and 3 are true, is the right one. And this we have seen in our theory class, that cellular respiration is basically the process in which cell break down the food, mainly glucose, to form release in the form of ATP, and it occurs both in plant and animals. And sometime in the exam it is generally asked the full form. So ATP is adenosine triphosphate, and it is also known as the energy currency of the cell. Okay, and in this, the main stages of cellular respiration is very important. The first stage is glycolysis, which occur in the cytoplasm. Okay, here 6 carbon molecule, that is glucose. Glucose is C6H12O6. So it is a 6 carbon molecule. It is converted into 2 pyruvate, that is 3 carbon molecule. Okay, this is the intermediate product, and here energy is released, that is 2 ATP, since breakdown has happened. It is exothermic reaction. Okay, then second stage Krebs cycle is there, which occur in the mitochondria, and the final electron transport chain, which occur is inner mitochondrial matrix, and it releases 36 ATP. Okay, so total of 38 ATP is released in the cellular respiration. So how many molecules of ATP are produced in the respiration of 1 molecule of glucose? So just now we have seen 36 in the ETC cycle and 2 in the glycolysis. So total of 38 ATP molecules are released. The next one, the breakdown of glucose to pyruvate take place in dash during the energy production. So we have seen the glucose is there, that is 6 carbon molecule is converted into pyruvate, which is basically 3 carbon molecule. It happens in the cytoplasm of the cell. It happens in the cytoplasm. Okay, afterward it enters into the mitochondria. Okay, where 3 cases are there. One is complete absence of oxygen, the next one is the lack of oxygen, third one is the presence of oxygen. So in the complete absence of oxygen, you have ethanol as the main product along with the carbon dioxide. Okay, and in the partial, that is lack of oxygen, it is the lactic acid which is produced, and in the presence of oxygen, as you know, it is carbon dioxide and water along with the 36 ATP of energy. Okay, let's see the next question. What is the reason that lungs have alveoli? Okay, alveoli is the place where diffusion of gases occur from, like it basically exchange of gases happen in the alveoli. Okay, and if you have seen the structure of alveoli, it is small areas are there. Okay, so why these small areas are there? Basically it increases the surface area so that maximum diffusion happen, maximum exchange of gases can take place. So option D is the right answer. Okay, so I will show you. So these are the alveoli. So as you can see, these are small structure present in the lungs. Okay, so basically gases is exchanged through diffusion, and they have large surface area. Okay, so that's why the main purpose is to have gas exchanges. Okay, and these are surrounded by the capillaries, and these are tiny air sacs basically. Okay, and there are many other parts I'm not revising in today's session. We will take a separate session on this human respiratory system, but as of now you can see these are the parts and these are their functions. Okay, and sometime we can ask you about the movement of air, how this movement is happening inside the respiratory system. Okay, let's see the next question. What is the role of cilia in respiratory tract? Okay, so as you have seen in the previous slide that cilia are present in the trachea or the windpipe. So this is the windpipe. So cilia is basically lined in the windpipe, and basically the main purpose is to remove the dust. So whenever you have inhaled the air from your nostrils, so if it comes here, it can remove it by expelling back to the nose. Okay, so if you see the option B, cilia sweep mucus from lung and airway toward the nodes. Okay, so whatever the dust or the mucus which has come from the lung, it make it back to the nose. Okay, so option B, those who have given, they are right. The next one, which of the following ensure that the air passage does not collapse during the respiration? So as you know, it is a windpipe. Okay, so after larynx there is a windpipe. So windpipe is basically surrounded by the rings of cartilage. Okay, it is C-shaped structure. These are called rings of cartilage. Okay, so option D is the right answer. Basically it make this windpipe straight so that it does not collapse because of this rings of cartilage. The last question for today's session, breathing is harder at higher altitude compared to sea level because of what? The rate of diffusion of gases is decreased at higher altitude. No. Rate of diffusion of gases remains the same whether you are at higher or lower altitude. The concentration of oxygen is very high at high altitude. It is again not the case. The reason is different. Okay, so this is also incorrect. Colder temperature constrict airway. This is again false. There is nowhere relation to this. The correct reason that breathing is harder at higher altitude like Leh Ladakh or any Everest, because the atmosphere is basically dense at high altitude. Okay, less dense. Less dense means that you are not able to have the proper oxygen at the higher altitude. Okay, if you take the option B, concentration of oxygen is very high, this is wrong. It is concentration of oxygen is very low at the high altitude because the atmosphere is very thin. It is very dense, less dense. Okay, so option D is the right answer.